Snow was already killing Ava Wright when she saw the skid marks slicing across Interstate 90. The twisted guardrail, the Harley in the ravine, and the man crushed beneath it wearing a Hells Angels president patch should have scared her into running. Instead, a 17-year-old homeless girl with nothing left to lose gave up her last bit of warmth to keep a dying stranger alive and dialed a number that brought 750 motorcycles thundering out of the Montana darkness. When their engines fell silent and they circled her in the snow, Ava finally understood. Somebody had not just tried to murder their president. They had used her to finish the job. Welcome to this story. If you are new here, stay close because what you are about to hear will reach into places you did not know still worked. To everyone who has been here from the beginning, may God watch over you and the people you love more than you can imagine. Before we step into this night on Interstate 90, let us take a moment to pray. Heavenly Father, thank you for every soul listening right now. Watch over them and their families. Heal where there is sickness. Provide where there is need. In Jesus' name, amen. Now, what you are about to hear is the kind of story that shows what a person is truly made of when the world strips everything else away. A homeless girl freezing on the side of a Montana highway makes a choice that will change her life and the lives of 750 men who live by a code most people will never understand. Ava Wright had learned long ago that snow could be loud, not just the crunch under boots, but the way it swallowed every other sound until all you could hear was your own breath, your own heartbeat, and the ugly voices in your head telling you to give up. On the shoulder of Interstate 90 outside Billings, Montana, the wind shoved at her back like it was trying to erase her from the map entirely. Her fingers had gone numb inside thin gloves 2 sizes too big. The kind someone leaves at a shelter because they are trash, and trash is all a girl like Ava deserves. Her sneakers were soaked through, socks frozen stiff. The denim jacket she wore was no match for the kind of cold that crawled into your bones and started switching off the lights one by one. She tugged her hood lower, face half hidden, watching her breath come out in ragged clouds that vanished the second they touched the night. Trucks hammered past in the right lane, spraying road salt and dirty snow. Not one slowing down to wonder why a 17-year-old girl was walking alone on the interstate after midnight in a snowstorm. To them, she was nobody, just another homeless kid on the side of the road, a problem for somebody else to ignore. Ava did not know it yet, but this frozen walk on Interstate 90 was about to change everything. If you are still here walking beside her through this snow stay with this story, because what happens next will show you what it means when the world has given up on someone, but they refuse to give up on themselves. Her stomach twisted again. Sharp, biting hunger that made her wrap her arms tighter around herself. The last thing she had eaten was half a gas station sandwich in Laurel almost 14 hours ago, eaten behind dumpsters before the clerk came out to chase her away like she was vermin. In her backpack, she carried exactly 3 things that mattered. A rolled-up hoodie that did not fit anymore but still smelled like the last home she had known. A photograph of her little brother Danny, 8 years old, grinning with 2 front teeth, missing syrup on his chin, one arm wrapped around her waist like she was the only safe thing in his world, and a bus ticket to Seattle, crumpled, ripped in half by her stepfather's hands 3 days ago before he threw her out of the house in Spokane and told her she was too much trouble to keep. She kept walking because there was nothing else to do. One foot in front of the other, the way the social worker used to tell her when she was younger before the system spit her back into the same house that hurt her in the first place. One step, then another. You cannot fix everything. You just keep going, out over the dark fields beyond frozen fences and the black skeletons of winter trees. A faint glow stained the sky to her right. The Winter Thunder Rally had been raging all weekend at the Billings Motorsports Park. Monster trucks and stunt bikes and fireworks. The kind of event she used to watch on YouTube when she still had a bed and a phone charger. The last explosions had smeared the clouds orange and purple about an hour ago. Tiny echoes of a world with tickets and hot chocolate and families who stayed together. Ava walked in the opposite direction. The road curved ahead. The shoulder narrowed where a guardrail took over. Snow had packed against the metal in ridges gray where the plows had shoved it aside. She pushed her hands deeper into her pockets, fingertips burning and then going strangely numb. She forced herself not to think about the news stories. The ones where they found people on the roadside in the morning, curled up like they were just sleeping, frozen solid by sunrise. That was when she saw the skid marks. They carved across both lanes at a violent angle. Two black streaks slicing through the white like someone had dragged a giant marker across the asphalt. They started near the center line and skated all the way to the shoulder straight into the guardrail where the metal bent outward like something had hit it hard enough to scream. Ava slowed, breath catching in her throat. Car wrecks meant cops. Cops meant questions. Questions meant names and addresses and parents. Things she did not have or did not want to explain. Every instinct sharpened by years of bad nights told her the same thing. Keep walking. Do not get involved. This is not your problem. She dropped her gaze, tightened her jaw, pushed forward. 10 more steps. 20. Snow grinding under her ruined sneakers. She had almost convinced herself that whatever happened back there was not her business when she heard it. Not the wind, not a truck, not the low, faraway thrum from the rally grounds. A sound ripped up from the darkness beyond the guardrail, torn by the wind but still unmistakably human. A raw, broken groan. Ava stopped like somebody had grabbed the back of her jacket. For a second, she just stood there, heart pounding in her throat, eyes squeezed shut. If she ignored it, maybe it would go away. Maybe it was just the road settling, ice cracking, her imagination playing tricks after 3 days of walking with almost no food. Then she heard the word, help, faint, strangled, like it was trying to claw its way out of a throat full of blood. But it was there. Help. Her stepfather's voice rose up in her head, ugly and familiar. You are useless, Ava. You are nothing but trouble. If you disappeared tomorrow, nobody would even notice. Nobody would care. The cold bit at her ears. Wind shoved her forward again. She could pretend she never heard it. Nobody knew she was out here. Nobody would blame her for walking away. Nobody ever blamed the ones who pretended not to see. But then another voice cut through. Smaller, younger. Danny's voice from the last phone call before child services took him away. Do not let them make you think you are trash, Ava. You are my sister. You are the only good thing. Her body moved before her fear could talk her out of it. Ava crossed to the guardrail and grabbed the freezing metal with aching fingers. She leaned over. The embankment dropped away steeply, a white slope broken by rocks and dark scrub brush. For a heartbeat, all she saw was more snow. Then her eyes found the wrong shape. Something big and black lay crumpled at the bottom, half buried where it had plowed through the drift. A motorcycle, chrome dulled by frost, back wheel still slowly spinning, exhaust hissing weakly in the cold. Next to it, twisted at an angle no body should bend, a man lay on his back. One leg pinned under the bike, one arm flung out, palm raw and bloody against the snow. The man's leather cut was torn at the shoulder, but even from up here, the patches were clear. Curved letters across the top. Hell's Angels, a white skull with wings. Another patch below bigger than the rest. Stark and brutal in the moonlight. President. Ava's breath hitched. The words sat on her tongue like a stone. She had seen those patches in documentaries. Viral clips about rallies in Sturgis and Daytona Beach. Men the news called outlaws and criminals. Men her stepfather cursed whenever they flashed on the television. You stay away from people like that, girl. They will eat you alive. Help. The sound came again, weaker this time. The man's head rolled a little, beard crusted with ice, lips turning blue. From this angle, she could see the way his chest hitched, like every breath was a fight he was losing. She could walk away. No one would ever know she had been here. The snow would keep falling. The highway would stay busy. By morning, somebody else would find whatever was left. But the photo in her backpack burned against her spine. Danny, 8 years old, syrup on his chin, one arm around her waist like she was the only safe thing in the world. Do not let them make you think you are trash. The pastor's wife at the shelter had said it once, pressing a paper cup of soup into Ava's hands, with fingers that smelled like onions and soap. Trash does not stop to help. Trash does not care. Trash does not jump a guardrail in a Montana snowstorm for a stranger bleeding in the snow. Ava swung one leg over the rail. For a moment, her foot hung above the slope, the drop yawning beneath her, wind clawing at her clothes. every sensible part of her brain screaming at once. This is how you die. This is how girls like you disappear and nobody asks questions. She jumped anyway. The hill vanished under her. She hit the snow hard on her side, slid, grabbed at branches that snapped in her hands, boots scraping uselessly over ice. Cold shot up her sleeves and down her collar. She crashed into a low stump, breath exploding from her lungs, came to a stop a few feet from the wreck. Up close, the damage was worse. The bike's front end was crushed, headlights smashed, handlebars twisted like someone had tried to wring them out. The man beneath it breathed in short, sharp gasps, each one sounding like it might be his last. His eyes flicked open when Ava crawled closer. Irises, a shocking clear gray and a face smeared with blood. For a heartbeat, they just stared at each other. A 17-year-old homeless girl in a thrift store jacket and a man whose vest said he owned every dangerous mile of this road. You are going to die down here if you do not move, some cold, practical part of Ava thought. Him too, she shoved the thought aside and dropped to her knees beside him. Snow soaking through her jeans instantly. Hang on, she said, voice shaking so hard the words almost broke. I got you. The man's cracked lips twitched like he wanted to laugh. A skinny teenage girl with no gloves and no plan, claiming she had anything under control. He tried to shift his leg. The sound that tore out of his throat made Ava flinch. All right, do not move, she blurted. Just keep talking to me. Stay awake. She looked at the bike, at the way it pinned his thigh at an angle that made her stomach roll. She knew enough from videos she had watched in school to understand that if he stayed stuck like this, the cold and the weight would do damage you did not come back from. Ava planted her feet in the snow, wrapped both hands around the handlebars, pulled. The Harley did not move. Pain shot up her arms, white hot. She bit down on a yell, shifted her grip, tried again. The metal felt fused to the earth like the crash had welded it there. The muscles in her back screamed. Her vision went gray around the edges. Kid, the man rasped. Ava ignored him, pulled harder. Her shoes slipped. Her shoulders felt like they were tearing apart. For one heartbeat, the bike lifted. An inch, maybe two. The man sucked in a breath and yanked his leg, boots scraping free, just as the Harley crashed back down with a dull final thud. Ava stumbled, fell to her knees, hands burning, chest heaving like she had sprinted all the way from Spokane. You are insane, the man whispered, a broken laugh riding his breath. You are heavy, Ava muttered, words thin and breathless. Her teeth were chattering hard now. Sweat cooled on her neck even as the cold chewed through her shirt. She glanced up at the strip of highway above them. Black against the sky, emptier than ever, no headlights, no sirens, no help coming. Do you have a phone, she asked? The man jerked his chin toward his chest. Inside pocket. Ava dug into the leather cut with shaking fingers until she found a smartphone. Slick with blood. The screen bloomed to life under her thumb, bright against the dark. No lock, just a list of recent calls with names that sounded like trouble. Tank, Rabbit, Clubhouse, Officer Emergency. She hesitated one beat, then hit the emergency contact. The line rang once, a voice answered, low and hard. Yeah, there has been a wreck, Ava said, words tumbling over each other. I am on Interstate 90 eastbound, just past the Billings Motorsports Park exit. Your guy went off the road. He is alive, but bad. Real bad. Who is this? Just a kid, Ava said. But if you do not get here soon, your president is going to freeze to death in a ditch. A pause. So long, she thought the call had dropped. When the voice came back, it was even colder. Stay with him. Do not let him go to sleep. We are coming. The line went dead. Ava stared at the phone, then at the man in the snow. The word president on his chest suddenly felt heavier than the bike had been. All the stories, all the rumors, all the fear people carried about men who wore that patch stacked up inside her head. She had just called them, told them exactly where she was, alone at the bottom of a snowy ditch with their leader bleeding beside her. A 17-year-old girl with nowhere to run and no one coming to help if this went bad. Above them, the night trembled. At first, she thought it was the wind picking up. Then she heard it for real, a low, distant rumble rolling across the dark, too steady to be thunder, too layered to be a single engine. One, then three, then 10, then so many that the air itself seemed to vibrate. Ava looked up at the strip of highway, heart hammering against her ribs like it was trying to break out. Headlights began to crest the rise in a long, unbroken line, cutting through the falling snow like a river of white fire. They were not sending a car. They were bringing an army. Engines filled the night until it felt like the whole highway was breathing. Ava stood in the ditch with snow up to her shins, chest heaving, watching Interstate 90 above her turn into a river of headlights in chrome and thunder. The sound was deeper than trucks, a layered growl that crawled into her ribs and shook them from the inside. On the shoulder, motorcycles lined up tight, front wheels at the guardrail. Headlights washed over the bent metal and spilled down the embankment. Silhouettes moved behind the beams, big shapes in leather and denim, patches catching the glare. For a moment, Ava felt like she was standing in the center of some frozen arena and the crowd had just arrived to decide her fate. If stories like this reach inside you and will not let go, stay close. Because every choice Ava makes now is pulling her deeper into a world that does not let people walk away clean. One figure swung off the lead bike and stepped forward. The rest followed without a word, like a wave breaking in perfect silence. The first man had a gray beard down to his chest and shoulders that filled his heavy cut completely. He strode to the guardrail and looked down. His eyes flashed pale in the light. He saw Ava first. Their gazes locked. Ava felt pinned. A skinny 17-year-old girl outlined by the glare. Every breath a white cloud. She knew what she looked like to them. A homeless kid alone with their president bleeding at her feet. She could be a trap. She could be bait. She could be anything. Then the man's eyes dropped to the wreck. His face changed in an instant, hard lines snapping into shock and fury. "That is him," someone shouted. "That is Reaper." Everything moved at once. Bikers flowed toward the guardrail. Some dropped over the edge, sliding down toward the wreck like they had done this before. Others fell into practice positions. One was already on his phone shouting for an ambulance. Another snapped open a med kit. Ava staggered back as two men reached Reaper. One with a patch that read, "Bones," dropped to his knees, checking breathing, checking pulse. The other braced Reaper's neck with careful hands. "What happened?" Bones barked. "He was already down here when I heard him." Ava said, voice small and shaking. "The bike was on his leg. I pulled it up so he could get free." "You moved the bike," Bones snapped. Ava flinched. The bearded man slid down the embankment with more control than anyone else. His cut was marked with Hellsangels, Montana, and a small name patch over his heart. Bull. He leaned over Reaper, eyes scanning the damage with the focus of someone who had seen this before and knew exactly how bad it could get. "Brother," he said, voice steady, "stay with me." Reaper's eyelids flickered. His gaze found Bull, then slid sideways, landed on Ava. "Kid," he whispered, "told you they would come." His head rolled to the side. "Is he?" Ava began. "He is fighting." Bones cut in, working fast, packing wounds, stabilizing the leg. Bull finally turned to Ava. Up close, his face was all lines and old scars, eyes that had seen too much and forgotten nothing. "You the one who called?" he asked. Ava nodded, legs shaking. "Name?" "Ava Wright." Something flickered in Bull's eyes at the last name, like a match striking in the dark. But before he could dig deeper, red and blue lights painted the snow. Sirens cutting through the rumble of idling engines. "Ambulance!" Bones shouted. "Move! Make a path!" The bikers opened a corridor. Two EMTs slid down with a stretcher and a backboard. They worked fast, collar on, legs secured, Reaper strapped down tight. Ava pressed herself against the snowbank, trying to disappear, trying to be invisible. One EMT glanced at her. "You all right, kid?" "I am fine." Ava lied. There was no time to argue. Reaper was carried up the hill, loaded into the ambulance, gone in a blast of sirens and spinning lights that faded into the snowstorm like it had never been real. Silence dropped in behind it, broken only by idling engines and rough breathing. Ava stood in the brightness of all those headlights, suddenly aware of how many men were looking straight at her. 750 pairs of eyes, all waiting to see what came next. Bull climbed back up to the shoulder and held out a gloved hand. "Come on." Ava stared at it. Stay if you want, Bull added, but cops will be here in 3 minutes. You look how you look. They will have questions you do not want to answer standing in a ditch. That made sense, more sense than anything else tonight. Ava grabbed his wrist and was hauled onto the shoulder. The line of motorcycles stretched farther than she could count. Everyone with a rider in a cut. Every rider watching her. This her someone asked. This is the kid who called it in, Bull said. The attention sharpened. Ava felt measured and weighed, examined and judged. A taller man stepped forward, hair pulled back, tattoos creeping up from under his collar. His rocker read, Hell's Angels, Montana. You from around here, he asked. No. You running from something? Ava's throat closed. Bull lifted a hand. Leave it. Not now. Up the highway, new lights appeared. A patrol car rolled up slow, tires crunching on packed snow. A trooper climbed out, eyes scanning the wall of bikers and the lone teenage girl standing among them like she did not belong. Evening, the trooper said. We got a call about a motorcycle down, Bull answered. Ambulance already took him. Your radio should have it. The trooper's gaze slid to Ava, lingered. And you are, Ava felt cornered, caught between law and outlaws. Both dangerous, just in different colors. She opened her mouth, but Bull spoke first. She is the one who found, Reaper, Bull said. Climbed down, pulled the bike off him, called us, saved his life. The trooper raised his eyebrows. That right, Ava nodded. You got somewhere warm to go tonight, kid. Ava thought about the underpass in Laurel, the shelter line that turned people away after 9, the locked door back in Spokane that would never open for her again. She thought about Danny in a foster home in Oregon, probably asleep by now, dreaming she was coming for him. No, she said quietly. The trooper sighed. All right, I need a statement. After that, we will figure something out. He can give his statement at the hospital, Bull said. Our brother is in surgery. Kid should be there. The trooper studied him, then nodded. Fine. I am riding behind you. If she disappears before I get that statement, we have a problem. Understood, Bull said. A heavy hand landed on Ava's shoulder. You are riding with us, Bull told her quietly. Ava looked down the line of bikes, at the helmets and patches and eyes. Her body wanted to bolt. Her bones wanted heat. Her brain listed every warning she had ever heard about men in cuts like these. Dangerous men, violent men, men who did not follow the same rules as everyone else. If you feel that pull between fear and hope, stay close. Because from here on, every mile Ava rides with them will drag her deeper into a world she does not understand yet. A world with debts that stretch back further than tonight, further than she knows. Snow hissed through the headlights. Somewhere ahead, the ambulance was racing toward Billings with their president barely hanging on. Bull squeezed Ava's shoulder once. You stepped into our story tonight, he said. Question is, are you ready for what comes next? A younger biker walked up with a spare helmet and held it out. Ava stared at her warped reflection in the black shell, fingers tingling with cold and fear, as 750 motorcycles waited in a silence that felt louder than any engine. Ava had never been on a motorcycle before. By the time she realized there was no safe way to say no, Bull was already walking her toward a matte black Harley near the front of the formation. The patrol car idled behind the wall of bikes, headlights washing everything in a hard white light that made the moment feel twice as exposed. The helmet felt heavier than it looked when Ava finally took it. Her fingers trembled as she slid it on, the padding cold against her ears. The strap fumbled against her jaw until Bull reached over and snapped it in place with one quick motion, like he had done this for scared kids before. Swing your leg over, Bull said. Hold on to me or the bar, but do not let go. Ava's heart hammered. The bike's engine rumbled beneath her like a living thing, vibration humming up through the frame into her legs. She slid onto the back seat, feeling 1,000 eyes track every movement. Her hands hovered, unsure, until Bull reached back, grabbed one of them and placed it firmly around his waist. There he said, You fall off, kid, and it will not be the cold that kills you. The trooper pulled out behind them. Lights off now, just another car in the dark. Bull raised 2 fingers, a small signal. The line of bikes came alive. Engines roared in sequence. A wave of sound that rolled down the formation and bounced back off the snowbanks. Ava's chest vibrated with it, ribs buzzing like they might shake loose. Then they moved. The first jolt nearly yanked Ava backward, but her arm locked tighter around Bull. The bike surged onto Interstate 90, tires chewing through slush. Cold air slapping at her exposed neck. Wind tore at her clothes, found every gap in her jacket. But for the first time that night, the cold did not feel like the main enemy. The speed did. Highway lamps flicked past in long, steady intervals, throwing the pack in and out of shadow. Ava watched the line of red taillights curve ahead of them. 750 bikes in a convoy that flowed like a single creature. Each time a truck appeared ahead, the formation shifted to let it pass, then stitched itself back together around the patrol car like a net. "You good back there?" Bull's voice came over his shoulder, muffled by the helmet. "Yes," Ava lied. Her voice shook in her own ears. She looked past Bull's shoulder at the night sliding by. Snowfields, dark trees, the occasional distant farmhouse light. Somewhere ahead, the ambulance was carving a similar path toward Billings, siren punching holes in the quiet. Reaper was in that box of light and metal, strapped down, half conscious, breathing through broken ribs that might stop any second. Ava tried not to think about what it would feel like if the man died after she had already ripped his leg free. If the club decided the kid had done more harm than good. If they decided she was the reason their president did not make it. She had never meant to be inside anyone else's story. She had just wanted to survive one more night. The ride to town blurred between terror and a strange, unwanted thrill. The bike banked gently with the curves of the interstate, the skyline of Billings slowly blooming ahead. A low cluster of orange and white lights on the flat, dark earth. The pack peeled off toward the hospital exit, the patrol cars sticking close behind them. At the first red light, drivers in regular cars stared openly. Some raised phones to record the flood of Hell's Angels pouring through the city streets. Ava caught a glimpse of her own reflection in a passing storefront window. A thin girl clinging to the back of a bike she had no business being on, swallowed by leather and chrome and a world that did not make room for people like her. They rolled into the hospital parking lot like a storm breaking. Engines cut one after another until the sudden quiet made Ava's ears ring. Breath smoked in the cold as riders dismounted, helmets coming off to reveal faces that all shared the same tightness around the eyes. Nobody joked, nobody lingered by their bikes. They moved toward the emergency room entrance in a wave. Bull stepped off and offered Ava his hand. "Helmet off," he said. "Stay close." Inside the hospital smelled like antiseptic and old coffee. Fluorescent lights buzzed, too bright after the dark highway. The waiting room was small compared to the flood of patches that tried to press into it. Nurses at the front desk went pale when they looked up and saw what was coming. "Sir," one of them started. "You cannot all be in here." Bull lifted both hands slightly, palms out. "We know," he said. "We just want to know where they took our president. We will wait wherever you tell us." The nurse hesitated, eyes flicking from the cuts to the trooper now walking in behind them. "He is with them," the trooper said, nodding at Bull. "They are here for the victim." The word victim hit Ava in the chest, like Reaper was already gone. The nurse swallowed. "Trauma base," she said. "Surgery prep. You can wait in the side room, but only a few of you." "We will rotate," Bull said. He turned and pointed. You stay here. The rest take the side hallway. Stay out of everyone's way. No one gives anyone in this building trouble. You hear me?" A murmured assent rolled through the group. For a second, Ava saw the club as something other than a wall of leather and danger. There was order here. Rules. A structure. They listened to him. Bull hooked a finger at Ava. "You too." The trooper caught Ava's arm as she moved to follow. "Statement," he reminded gently. Bull's jaw flexed. "She gets 5 minutes," he said. "Then the kid talks to you." The trooper nodded. They stepped into a smaller room just off the waiting area. A space with plastic chairs, a drink machine, humming in the corner, and a television mounted on the wall playing some muted late-night talk show. The noise from the emergency room faded behind the door, replaced by the hiss of the heater and the soft creak of leather as the men sat. Ava took a chair near the wall, feeling like every surface might burn her if she touched it wrong. "You did good out there," Bones said, breaking the silence. He sat across from Ava, arms on his knees, eyes tired but sharp. "That leg would have been crushed to pulp if you had not lifted that bike." "I think I did it wrong," Ava said quietly. You said not to move it. Bones shrugged one shoulder. In a perfect world, we do not touch anything until the spine board shows up. In this world, he bleeds out alone in a ditch if you do not. I will take broken over dead. The words sank in, numb and slow. Bull watched her for a long moment, like he was trying to decide how much to say, how much she could handle, how much she needed to know. Ava Wright, he said finally. That's your full name, yes. Where are you from, Washington, Ava said. Spokane. Bull's eyes narrowed. Your old man's name? Ava's fingers tightened on the edge of her chair. She thought about lying, but something in Bull's gaze made it feel pointless. Like he already knew the answer and was just testing to see if she would be honest. Michael, she said. Michael Wright. Bull leaned back like he had been hit. A low curse slipped out before he could stop it. I knew it, he muttered. Ava frowned. You knew him. Bull rubbed a hand over his beard, stared at the floor for a long moment. When he looked up again, his eyes were different. Something like guilt flickering behind the harder things. Your dad ever tell you what he did in Tacoma, he asked. He left, Ava said. That is what he did. Walked out when I was a baby. Never looked back. A muscle jumped in Bull's jaw. That is one way to say it. Bones glanced between them. You sure Bull could be a coincidence? Look at her, Bull shot back. Same eyes, same name. Reaper does not forget faces. He does not forget debts. Ava's stomach nodded. Debts, Bull looked at her again. Your father saved Reaper's life once, he said. 17 years ago, outside a bar in Tacoma. Took a shot meant for him. Went to the ground bleeding. Could have stayed. Could have patched in with us. Instead, he made us disappear him. Disappear him. The phrase felt wrong. Heavy. Why, Ava asked. Because the man who pulled the trigger had friends in places with badges, Bull said. And because your old man had a pregnant wife at home who would have paid for his choices with her life. So he walked away, entered witness protection, left us owing him more than we could ever pay. The room went too quiet. Ava's pulse roared in her ears. All those years her stepfather had called her useless. Had sneered that her real dad was some coward who ran off and started a new family somewhere better. And now this stranger was telling her Michael Wright had stepped into a gunfight for a man like Reaper and then vanished to keep his baby daughter breathing. You are saying, Ava began slowly, that Reaper knows who I am. Bull nodded once. He recognized the name in the ditch. I guarantee you that. Might not have had the words for it yet through all that pain. But he knows. Ava's skin prickled. So what does that mean for me? Before Bull could answer, the door opened. The trooper stepped in, hat in one hand, small notepad in the other. Time, he said. Bull stood. She is not running, he told the trooper. Did not say she was, the trooper replied. He sat down opposite Ava and clicked his pen. All right, kid, just tell me what you saw. Ava recounted it. From the skid marks to the guardrail, the sound of help, the jump, the bike, the call. Her voice sounded far away as she spoke, like it belonged to someone else, someone braver. The trooper wrote, asked a few clarifying questions, then closed the pad. You did the right thing calling it in, he said. A lot of folks would have kept walking. Ava did not know what to do with that. You got any charges, the trooper added, tone practical rather than threatening. Warrants, any reason I should be dragging you downtown? No, Ava said. All right then, for now you are free to go where they take you. If we need you for anything else, we will find you. That last sentence landed like a weight on Ava's chest. The trooper left. The heater hummed. Somewhere in the guts of the hospital machines beeped steadily around a man who might or might not wake up. Bull dropped back into his chair. Here is the thing, kid, he said. Whether you like it or not, you are in this now, in what Ava asked. The Blood Bull said simply, your father saved our president once. Tonight you did it again. That is not nothing in our world. Ava swallowed. I did not do it for anything. I just heard someone calling for help. That is why it matters, Bull said. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. Most people hear that call and keep walking. You did not. That tells me something about who you are. The door to the waiting room swung open again. A doctor stepped in, green scrubs under a white coat, surgical cap still on. Lines of exhaustion carved deep around his eyes. The patch of quiet inside the room tightened. You here for the motorcycle accident? The doctor asked, looking at Bull. Reaper Bull corrected automatically. The doctor took a breath. He is alive, he said. For now. We repaired what we could. His leg was a mess, but we managed to save it. The head trauma is the bigger concern. He is in a coma. Could be hours, could be days, could be longer. Relief and dread twisted together in Ava's chest. Alive, but not really here. Can we see him? Bull asked. One at a time, the doctor said. Immediate family first. Bull hesitated, then glanced at Ava. Something unspoken passed through his expression. He has no blood here, Bull said quietly. The doctor frowned. Then who are all of you, family? Bull said. The kind you choose. He stood and looked straight at Ava. Come on. Ava blinked. Me, Bull nodded. You pulled him out of that snow. You go in before I do. A dozen pairs of eyes followed Ava as she rose on unsteady legs and walked past them, out into the hall, past nurses and security guards trying to look like they were not unnerved by the wall of leather in the chairs. Her sneakers squeaked on the polished floor. Her hands would not stop shaking. The doctor led them down a corridor that smelled sharper, colder somehow. They stopped outside a door with a number and a warning sign about hand sanitizer. The doctor pushed it open. Machines hummed softly inside. A monitor ticked out a slow rhythm. Reaper lay in the bed, skin pale against the sheets, beard clean of blood, tubes and wires snaking into his arms and under the blankets. His leg was wrapped thick, elevated. Ava stepped just inside the door and stopped. The man looked smaller here, washed of the noise and heat and fury that had surrounded him on the highway. Just a broken body held together by stitches and plastic lines. She felt Bull's presence behind her, solid and unmoving. Say something, Bull murmured, even if he cannot hear it. Ava swallowed, throat tight. She thought of the ditch, the way Reaper's hand had clamped around her wrist when she pulled the bike free, the way he had said kid like it meant something. She thought of her father, a name and a ghost, suddenly tethered to this man by a story no one had bothered to tell her, a story that made her something other than trash left on the side of a highway. She stepped closer to the bed, fingers twitching at her sides. Hey, she said quietly, it is Ava, the stupid kid who did not keep walking. A weak laugh that was not really a laugh caught in her chest. They say you owe my family, she whispered. But now I guess I owe you too. Somewhere outside the door, boots thudded on tile. Voices rose and dropped. The world beyond this room kept moving, full of engines and sirens and people who had places to be, people who belonged somewhere. Ava stood between them, staring at the slow blink of the monitor, wondering what happened next, wondering if she had just traded one kind of cold for another. Then Reaper's fingers twitched. For a second, Ava thought she imagined it, just some glitch in her tired brain. But then it happened again, a tiny movement against the white sheet, like his hand was trying to remember how to be a fist. The heart monitor kept its slow, steady rhythm, a soft electronic heartbeat for a man who had spent his whole life living by louder ones. Bull stepped up to the other side of the bed, eyes locked on that hand. You see that, he murmured. Ava nodded, throat too tight to speak. Reaper's eyelids fluttered. Not much. Just enough to show a sliver of gray between lashes. The doctor had said coma. Days, maybe weeks. But something in the room felt like it had shifted. Like someone had opened a door a crack and light was trying to force its way through. Reaper Bull said quietly, It is Bull. You are in Billings General. You made it off that highway. For a long moment, nothing changed. Then Reaper's mouth moved, words sticky and soft. Cold, he whispered. You are inside, Bull said. You are warm. Reaper's gaze drifted unfocused toward the ceiling, then slid sideways, and landed on Ava like a weight. Kid, he breathed. You are still here. Ava swallowed. Yeah, you are hard to walk away from. A small rasp that might have been a laugh scraped out of Reaper's chest. Could have left me, he said. Did not. His eyes closed again for a moment, then opened a little wider, just enough for something like recognition to burn there. Right, Reaper whispered. Bull glanced at Ava. He knows, he said softly. Reaper's fingers twitched again, this time reaching, searching. Ava hesitated, then stepped closer and wrapped her hand gently around the older man's. The skin was rough, the grip weak, but deliberate. You have his hands, Reaper murmured. Like your old man. You knew him, Ava said. Reaper's eyes glistened in the harsh hospital light. Saved my life, he said. Took a bullet. Walked away so trouble would not follow his kid home. Ava's chest cracked open around the words. All those years of thinking her father was a shadow who left because she was not worth staying for. And now this man half broken on a hospital bed was telling her Michael Wright had walked away to keep her breathing. She wanted to be angry. She wanted to be grateful. Mostly she just felt hollow and full at the same time. He did not tell me, Ava managed. Reaper's mouth twitched. Some debts you do not brag about, he said. You just carry them. Silence settled over the room, heavier than the machines. Bull watched them both, arms folded across his chest, eyes strangely soft. We owe him, Reaper continued. Owe you. That is how this works. I did not pull you out of that ditch for a reward, Ava said quickly. Good, Reaper said, because what I am offering is not a reward. His hand tightened slightly around Ava's. Surprising strength in that grip. I got a club that needs to remember what we stand for, he said. Brothers, family, paying back what we owe. I got enemies who thought they could take me off a road and nobody would answer. And I got a girl named Wright who jumped a guardrail in a snowstorm when the rest of the world would have walked on. The monitor beeped steadily as he sucked in another breath. You got somewhere to go after this, he asked. Somewhere safe. Ava thought of the underpasses, the shelter lines, the dead phone in her pocket, the ripped bus ticket still folded in her backpack. She thought of walking along Interstate 90 alone with nothing but hunger and wind for company. No, she said quietly. Reaper's jaw clenched, like that answer hurt more than any of his injuries. Then here is what we are going to do, he said, voice stronger now, like deciding gave him power. Bull, he added, without looking away from Ava. Yeah, Brother Bull answered. Kid does not spend another night on concrete, Reaper said. You hear me? She gets a room, food, clothes that are not falling apart, work if she wants it, and anybody who has a problem with that can bring it to me when I wake up. Ava stared at him. Why? Reaper's eyes sharpened. Because your father stepped into a fight that was not his and changed my life, he said. And because you just did the same. You think I am going to pretend that did not happen? Something inside Ava shifted, like ice breaking loose in spring. Bull stepped closer to the bed, voice low. We already booked you a room at a motel near the shop, he told Ava, before we even knew your last name. 1 week paid. That was for pulling him out of that snow. You did that, Ava asked. Bull shrugged. Family takes care of people who take care of family. That is how we see it. The word family sat in the air between them. Unfamiliar and sharp. What if I do not want to be part of this? Ava asked, the question out before she could stop it. Reaper's gaze did not waver. Then you take the room, the food, the warm clothes. And tomorrow you walk whichever direction you want, he said. Door is open both ways. We are not a prison. He paused, eyes searching Ava's face. But if you stay, he added quietly, then we do this right. You are not just some stray kid we threw a jacket at and forgot. We teach you how to work, how to ride, how to stand up when someone tries to throw you in a ditch and leave you there. Ava let the words sink in. Warmth, work, a place that noticed if she went missing. The idea tasted dangerous, like hope. Bull's phone buzzed softly. He checked the screen, jaw tightening for a heartbeat, then relaxing. Brake line was cut, he said. The boys found it while they pulled your bike into the bay. Clean slice. Not a rock, not wear and tear. Someone meant for you to hit that rail. Reaper closed his eyes. When he opened them again, they were colder. I figured, he said. Who? Bull asked. Reaper hesitated, then shook his head once. Not in front of her. Ava stiffened. This was bigger than one wreck on a snowy highway, bigger than an old debt being paid. Someone had wanted this man dead badly enough to sabotage his bike on the night of a big rally, knowing he would be alone on the road afterward. She thought of the black SUV that had rolled slow past the scene earlier in the night. Windows tinted, the way it had paused just long enough to feel wrong. She had not mentioned it to anyone, had not thought it mattered, but now a picture slammed into her brain, clear and sharp. A phone raised in the darkness, a tiny red recording light blinking near the passenger window. There was a car, Ava blurted. Bull's head snapped toward her. What car? Black SUV, Ava said. No plates on the front. Rolled up slow when I was still down in the ditch. I thought they were going to stop, but they just watched for a second, then drove off. Reaper's fingers tightened again around Ava's hand. You see the driver? No, Ava said. Just the phone. They filmed everything. Bull cursed under his breath. That video will be online by morning, he said. Kid in the snow with our president under a bike. Whole pack rolling up. And whoever cut that line, Reaper added, will be watching the comments. Ava's stomach turned. So I am a target too now, Reaper met her eyes. You were a target the second they realized whose daughter you are, he said. They did not just want me off that road. They wanted to make sure the right name never showed up in our world again. Fear clawed at Ava's chest, but something else rose with it, anger. She had spent her whole life being treated like a problem, like a mistake someone wished would disappear. Now strangers she had never met had tried to erase her without even knowing her. What do we do, she asked. Reaper's gaze slid to Bull. First we keep her alive, Reaper said. No more walking highways alone. You get her set up at the motel, then at the shop. No details on the internet, no full name outside this room. Bull nodded, and then Reaper added, voice dropping lower, we find out who cut that line. Quiet, careful. We do not give them the war they are hoping for. We give them something worse. Ava did not know what worse meant in this world, but the way both men's faces hardened told her whoever was on the other end of that brake line was not going to sleep easy. The doctor reappeared in the doorway, expression softening when he saw Reaper awake and talking. You are supposed to be resting, he said. Reaper smirked faintly. I will rest when the kid stops looking like she is going to bolt, he replied. The doctor sighed. 5 more minutes, he said. Then everyone out. He left them again. Bull put a hand on Ava's shoulder. The weight still felt heavy, but less like a trap now, more like an anchor. You got options, he said quietly. Most kids on that highway do not. You can take the help. Lay low. Figure your life out. Or you can walk back into that snow and pretend none of this happened. Can I ask something, Ava said. Bull nodded. If I stay, does that mean I am one of you? Not overnight, Bull said. This is not a jacket we throw on someone because we feel bad. It takes time, work, trust. But it means we do not let anyone hurt you without answering. It means you are not alone by default anymore. Reaper squeezed her hand again. It means when someone leaves you in the snow, kid, he said, there will be 750 bikes on that highway before your body ever gets cold. The image hit Ava hard, not because of the engines or the jackets, but because of the simple promise inside it. Someone would come, someone would notice, someone would care enough to show up. She thought of Danny, little brother, standing barefoot in their kitchen doorway, back in Spokane, whispering, do not freeze out there. Come back for me. She pictured a future where she could call him from a number that was hers, in a place that was hers, and tell him she was okay, that she had people watching her back, that she was coming for him. She drew in a slow, shaky breath. I do not know how to be part of something like this, she admitted. Bull's mouth twitched. We will teach you, he said. You just start by showing up and not lying to our faces. Ava looked at Reaper, at Bull, at the tubes and wires and the patched leather hanging on the chair by the bed, at the faint grease stains ground into Bull's knuckles, the hospital band cutting across Reaper's wrist, the faint hum of a world much bigger than anything she had ever known. Okay, she said finally, I will stay. For now. Reaper's eyes closed, but a smile ghosted across his mouth. Good, he murmured. Hate owing ghosts. Bull's hand tightened once on Ava's shoulder, then let go. Come on, he said. Let him rest. Tomorrow we get you some real food and boots that do not leak. They stepped out into the hall. The door clicked, softly shut behind them. The pack was still in the waiting room. Quieter now, some sitting with heads bowed, some scrolling through phones, some just staring at the floor like they were praying without moving their lips. Heads turned as Ava and Bull emerged. Wellbones asked. He knows, Bull said simply, and he is not dead. A ripple of breath moved through the men, the kind of exhale people hold for hours when they are too afraid to let it out early. Bull jerked his chin toward the exit. Let us get you to that room, he said to Ava. Ava followed him down the hallway, past vending machines and bulletin boards and tired nurses. As the automatic doors slid open and the night air hit her face, she looked out at the line of bikes in the lot. Silent now, chrome glinting under the streetlights. The snow had slowed to a soft drift, flakes turning lazy in the glow. The highway was still out there, stretching into dark in both directions, full of places where people walked alone. But tonight, Ava was not one of them. She pulled her thin jacket tighter out of habit, then felt the weight of the leather Bull had draped over her shoulders earlier. Left there without ceremony, it was too big, smelled like engine oil and cold air, and something like safety. Ava touched the edge of the patch with her fingertips, not tracing the words, just feeling the stitches. She had stepped into their story on a frozen strip of Interstate 90, thinking she was just helping a stranger in the snow. Instead, she had dragged an old debt back into the light, almost died of the cold, and found a door into a life she never thought she was allowed to want. As she walked toward the bikes and the waiting ride to a warm bed, one thought anchored itself in her chest and would not move. She had not saved Reaper alone that night. Choosing not to walk away when the world told her she did not matter had saved her too. But as Bull handed her the helmet again, and the engines around them rumbled back to life, Ava's phone buzzed in her pocket, a number she did not recognize. She pulled it out, hands shaking. One new message. We know where you are, right? Ava's blood went cold. She looked up at Bull, showed him the screen, his jaw set like stone. He glanced back at the hospital, then at the line of bikes, then at Ava. Change of plans, he said. You are not sleeping alone tonight. The text message glowed in the darkness like a threat carved in ice. We know where you are, right? 4 words that turned the warm promise of a safe room into something hollow. Bull stared at the screen, jaw working like he was chewing on decisions he did not want to make. You are staying at the clubhouse tonight, he said. Not a question, a fact. The clubhouse turned out to be a low cinder block building on the edge of Billings, tucked behind a motorcycle repair shop with bars on the windows and security cameras pointed at every angle. The kind of place that looked like it had survived things most buildings would not talk about. Bull pulled his bike around back where the lot opened up into a fenced compound. More motorcycles lined up in neat rows. A fire barrel smoldering in the corner. Men standing around it breathed, smoking cuts, catching the orange glow. They looked up when Bull and Ava rolled in, eyes tracking her like she was a puzzle they had not figured out how to solve yet. This is Ava, Bull said to no one in particular. She stays here tonight. Anyone got a problem with that? Bring it to me now. Silence. Then an older man with a gray ponytail and a scar running from his eyebrow to his jaw nodded once. No problem, brother. Bull led Ava inside through a steel door that looked like it could stop a truck. The interior was warmer than she expected. Wood paneling on the walls, a long bar with stools, pool table in the corner. Worn leather couches arranged around a television playing the late news on mute. It smelled like motor oil and old smoke and coffee that had been brewing too long. A younger man, maybe mid-20s, looked up from the couch. Rabbit based on the patch on his cut. He had the kind of face that had not seen enough years to lose its softness yet. She the one, Rabbit asked. She saved Reaper, Bull said. That makes her family until someone proves otherwise. Rabbit nodded, stood up, offered Ava a tentative smile. You need anything, just holler. Fridge is fair game. Thanks, Ava managed. Her voice felt small in this space. Bull walked her down a narrow hallway, stopped at a door marked with a piece of tape that said Prospect Room. Inside was a single bed, a small dresser, and a window with bars. Clean sheets, a lamp. Nothing fancy, but it was more than Ava had seen in 3 days. Lock the door, Bull said. Do not open it for anyone but me or Bones. If something feels wrong, you yell, loud. Half the club sleeps here. They will hear you. Ava nodded. Bull hesitated at the door, his hand on the frame like he wanted to say something else but could not find the words. Finally, he just said, Your old man would be proud of you, kid, what you did tonight. Then he was gone. Ava sat on the edge of the bed and pulled out the photograph of Danny. 8 years old, missing teeth, syrup on his chin. She traced the edge with her thumb. Wherever he was tonight, in whatever foster home had taken him in after the state pulled him from their mother's house, she hoped he was warm. She hoped he was safe. She hoped he knew she was coming for him. Her phone buzzed again. Ava's heart jumped into her throat. But this time the number was different. Local area code. Is this Ava Wright? The text read. This is Catherine Brennan, social worker with Montana Child Services. I need to speak with you about your brother Daniel. Please call me in the morning. Ava stared at the message until the screen went dark. Then she lay back on the bed fully clothed and tried to sleep with the weight of two families pressing down on her chest. The one she was born into and the one she had stumbled into tonight on a frozen highway. Morning came too fast and too bright. Someone knocked on the door while Ava was still trying to remember where she was. Bull's voice filtered through. You decent? Yeah, he came in holding a paper bag and a cardboard cup of coffee. Breakfast, he said. Nothing fancy. Egg sandwich from the diner up the road. Figured you could use real food. Ava took it. The warmth of the cup alone felt like a gift. Thanks. Reaper woke up about an hour ago, Bull said. Stable. Doctors say he can go home in a few days if things keep improving. He wants to see you later. Alva nodded, chewing slowly. The sandwich tasted better than anything she could remember. Bull sat on the edge of the dresser, arms crossed. You get that message from the social worker? Yeah, her name is Catherine Brennan. Been doing this work for 20 years. She is tough but fair. If she is reaching out, it means Danny is in the system and something happened. Ava swallowed hard. Like what? Like someone reported abuse, Bull said. Or neglect. Or Danny told a teacher something that set off alarms. Either way, you need to call her. Find out what is going on. Because if Danny needs help, we need to know now. Ava pulled out her phone, hands shaking, dialed the number from the text. Catherine Brennan answered on the second ring. This is Catherine. This is Ava Wright, Ava said. You texted me about my brother, Ava. Thank you for calling. I will get straight to it. Daniel was brought to the emergency room yesterday afternoon with bruising on his arms and back. His foster father, Roger Pike, is under investigation. Danny has been removed from the home and placed in temporary group care while we sort this out. Ava's stomach dropped. Is he okay? Physically, yes. Emotionally, he is asking for you. A lot. I understand your situation is complicated, but I need to know if you have stable housing and any means of support. Because if you do, we can start the process of placing Danny with you instead of leaving him in the system. Ava looked at Bull. He was watching her with those steady eyes that had seen everything and still chose to care. I have a place, Ava said slowly, and people helping me. Good, Catherine said. I will need to do a home visit, verify employment or school enrollment, interview references, standard procedure. But I want you to know, Ava, I have been doing this long enough to recognize when a kid is fighting for family. If you are serious about taking custody of Danny, I will do everything I can to make that happen. I am serious, Ava said. He is all I have. Then let us get to work. I will be in touch this week to set up the home visit. In the meantime, you can visit Danny at the group home. I will text you the address. The call ended. Ava sat there staring at the wall. Danny was hurt. Some man she had never met had put his hands on her little brother, and now the state had him in a building somewhere, surrounded by strangers, asking for a sister who had been walking highways in the snow instead of protecting him. Bull stood. We will get him, he said, but first you need to understand something. Taking custody at 17 is not simple. You will need a legal guardian to co-sign. You will need income, stable housing. The state does not just hand kids over to teenagers, even if they are blood. So what do I do? You let us help, Bull said. The club votes today on making you an official support case. If it passes, I become your legal co-guardian. We set you up in an apartment near the shop. You work garage hours, get your GED, and build the kind of life the state cannot argue with. Why would you do that? Ava asked. You barely know me. Bull's expression softened. Because 17 years ago, your father took a bullet to keep our president alive. Because last night you jumped into a ditch when you could have walked away. And because every man in this club knows what it feels like to be a kid the world gave up on. We do not turn our backs on that. Ever. The garage behind the clubhouse was bigger than Ava expected. 3 bays with hydraulic lifts, rows of tools on pegboards, the smell of grease and metal and old rubber. Bones was already elbow deep in the engine of a Sportster when Bull brought Ava in that afternoon. She going to be working here? Bones asked without looking up. If she wants, Bull said. Bones wiped his hands on a rag and turned to Ava. You know anything about engines? Not really, Ava admitted. Good, Bones said. Means I do not have to undo bad habits. Come here. For the next 2 hours, Bones walked Ava through the basics. How to identify parts. How to check fluid levels. How to read the way an engine sounded and know what was wrong before you ever touched a wrench. He did not talk down to her. Did not make jokes about girls in Greece. Just taught her like she was anyone else trying to learn a trade. Your hands are small, Bones said at one point. That is an advantage. You can get into spaces I cannot reach anymore. Ava found herself nodding, listening, asking questions. For the first time in days, her brain was focused on something other than survival. She was learning, building, making something work that was broken. Bull appeared in the doorway around noon. Club meeting in 10, he said. Ava, you are up. The clubhouse had filled up while Ava was working. Easily 40 men now, some she recognized from the hospital, others she had never seen. They sat around tables leaned against walls, filled the couches. All eyes turned when Ava walked in. Reaper was supposed to be resting, but he sat at the head of the long table in a wheelchair, leg elevated, looking pale but awake. Bull stood beside him. Brothers, Reaper said, voice rough but steady. You all know why we are here. Ava Wright saved my life 2 nights ago. Pulled a bike off me in the snow when she could have kept walking. Called you all in when I was dying. She is the daughter of Michael Wright, the man who took a bullet for me 17 years ago in Tacoma and never asked for anything in return. The room was silent. Her little brother is in the system, Reaper continued. Hurt by a foster father who should not have been trusted with a dog, let alone a kid. She needs custody. She needs support. She needs family. Bull stepped forward. I am proposing we make Ava an official support case. I will act as legal co-guardian. We set her up in the apartment above the garage. She works for Bones, gets her schooling, and we back her when the state comes asking questions. All in favor hands went up, one by one, until every man in the room had voted yes. Opposed, Bull asked. Silence. It is done, Reaper said. Welcome to the family, kid. Ava felt something crack open in her chest, not breaking, expanding, like she had been holding her breath for 17 years and just now remembered how to exhale. That night, Ava visited Danny at the group home. It was a plain brick building on the north side of Billings with a playground out front and bars on the windows that tried to look decorative but were not. Catherine Brennan met her at the door. He has been asking for you nonstop, Catherine said. Just keep it calm. He has been through a lot. Danny was in the common room watching cartoons with 3 other kids. He looked so small, sitting there in clothes that were not his hair uncombed, eyes tired. But when he saw Ava, his whole face lit up. Ava, he shouted. He ran across the room and threw his arms around her waist, squeezed like he was afraid she would disappear if he let go. Hey, little man, Ava whispered, her throat tight. I am here. They sat on the couch together. Danny pressed against her side. She could feel him shaking. Did he hurt you bad? Ava asked quietly. Danny shook his head. Not too bad. He just gets really mad. But Miss Catherine says I do not have to go back there. You do know, Ava said. I promise. Are you staying here too? No, Ava said. But I am working on getting us a place together, just you and me. Danny looked up at her, eyes wide. Really? Really? When? Soon, Ava said. I just need to get some things in order, but I am not leaving you here long. Okay, Catherine appeared in the doorway. Visiting hours are almost up, she said gently. Ava hugged Danny one more time, kissed the top of his head. I will be back in 2 days, she promised, and I am going to call you every night. On the ride back to the clubhouse, Bull glanced over at her. You good? No, Ava said, but I will be. The next morning, Bull took Ava to meet Jordan Cole, the lawyer the club kept on retainer. Jordan's office was above a pawn shop downtown, small but organized. Law degrees on the wall next to photos of her shaking hands with judges and city officials. She was in her early 40s, sharp-eyed with graying hair pulled back in a tight bun and the no-nonsense energy of someone who had spent years fighting systems designed to grind people down. Ava Wright, Jordan said, shaking her hand. Bull tells me you have quite the story. They sat. Jordan listened while Ava explained everything. Danny, the foster home, the custody issue. When Ava finished, Jordan leaned back in her chair and tapped a pen against her desk. Here's the reality, she said. You are 17, legally a minor. The state does not like placing children with other minors even if they are siblings. But it is not impossible. With Bull as co-guardian and proof of stable income and housing, we have a case. The question is timing. How long, Ava asked. If everything goes smoothly, 6 to 8 weeks. Danny does not have 8 weeks, Ava said. He is in a group home asking for me every night. Jordan's expression softened. I understand. But rushing the process gives the state reasons to say no. We need to be smart. Document everything. Show up to every meeting. Make them see that you are not some kid trying to play house. You are his sister, fighting to keep him safe. Ava nodded, hands clenched in her lap. There is one more thing, Jordan said. She pulled a file from her desk. Bull mentioned your father, Michael Wright. Ava's pulse quickened. What about him? He testified in a case 17 years ago, Jordan said. Detective Kyle Garrett killed an informant outside a bar in Tacoma. Your father was the witness who put him away. Kyle died in prison 2 years ago. Ava felt ice crawl up her spine. And Kyle's brother is Russell Garrett, chief of police here in Billings. Jordan slid a photo across the desk. A man in uniform, silver hair, cold eyes. If Chief Garrett knows you are Michael Wright's daughter, you need to be very careful. Men like him do not forget, and they do not forgive. The raid came 3 days later. Ava was in the garage with Bones learning how to rebuild a carburetor when the doors burst open. 6 officers in tactical gear, guns drawn, faces hidden behind visors, hands where we can see them. One of them barked. Bones raised his hands slowly. Calm. What is this about officers? We have a warrant to search the premises. Bull appeared from the office, moving slow, hands visible. I want to see the warrant. One of the officers handed it over. Bull scanned it, jaw tightening. This is garbage, he said. You do not have probable cause for this. A man stepped through the door behind the officers, not in tactical gear, in a police chief's uniform, silver hair, cold eyes, the same face from the photo Jordan had shown Ava. Chief Russell Garrett. His gaze swept the garage and landed on Ava like a rifle scope. Probable cause is my business, Garrett said, not yours. He walked straight to Ava, stopped 3 feet away, studied her with the kind of look that stripped people down to their bones. You look just like your mother, he said quietly. She cried when the marshals took your father away. Did you know that begged them not to take him? Said she had a baby girl at home who needed her daddy. Ava's hands trembled. She forced them still. Your father destroyed my family, Garrett continued. Sent my brother to prison on a lie. Kyle died in that cage, alone, and your father walked free under a new name, living his life while mine burned. Michael Wright told the truth, Bull said. Your brother murdered a man in cold blood. Garrett's smile was a knife. That is your version. He turned to his officers. Search everything. They tore through the garage, pulled out drawers, opened toolboxes. Bones and Bull watched silent fury radiating off them like heat. Ava stood frozen, trying to understand what was happening. One of the officers called out from the corner. Chief, we got something. Garrett walked over, looked at what the officer was holding, a small plastic bag, white powder inside. He turned back to Ava. Well, he said. Looks like we have methamphetamine in the workspace. Whose locker is this? That is Ava's. Bones said slowly. But she did not put that there. Garrett pulled out handcuffs. Ava Wright, you are under arrest for possession of a controlled substance. This is a plant, Bull said. You brought that in here. Prove it, Garrett said. He grabbed Ava's arm, twisted it behind her back, cuffed her wrists. Bull stepped forward. Bones grabbed his shoulder. Not like this, Bones whispered. This is what he wants. Ava's heart hammered. Danny's face flashed through her mind. If she went to jail now, she would lose him. The state would never give custody to someone with a drug charge. I did not do this, she said. Garrett leaned close, whispered in her ear so only she could hear. Your father took everything from me. Now I am going to take everything from you. The holding cell smelled like urine and desperation. Ava sat on a metal bench, head in her hands, trying not to cry. She had been here for 4 hours. No one had told her what happened next. No one had explained her rights. She was just a body in a cage waiting for the system to decide if she mattered. The door buzzed. Bull walked in with Jordan Cole beside him. You okay, Bull asked. No, Ava whispered. Jordan sat beside her, pulled out a notepad. Tell me exactly what happened. Ava recounted it. The raid, the planted drugs, Garrett's words. Jordan wrote everything down. This is good, Jordan said. How is any of this good, Ava asked. Because Garrett overplayed his hand, Jordan said. He is so focused on revenge he is getting sloppy. We can fight this, Bull crossed his arms. We pulled security footage from the garage. Shows Garrett's officer going to that locker 15 minutes before they announced the search. No warrant at that point. Just planting evidence. Jordan smiled. Then we have him. They posted bail 2 hours later. Ava walked out into the cold evening air feeling like she had been underwater and just broke the surface. Bull drove her back to the clubhouse in silence. Inside, Reaper was waiting, still in the wheelchair, but looking stronger. He waved Ava over. Sit, he said. Ava sat. Garrett came after you because of me, Reaper said. Because of your father. That makes this club business. So here is what we are going to do. Jordan fights this legal. Clean. By the book. We do not give Garrett an excuse to call us criminals. But we also do not sit quiet. He pulled an envelope from inside his cut. Old. Yellowed at the edges. Sealed with wax. Your father left this with me 17 years ago, Reaper said. Told me to open it only if his family was ever in danger. I think that time is now. He broke the seal. Inside were 3 things. A cassette tape, a stack of photographs, and a letter written in faded ink. Reaper handed the letter to Ava. This is for you. Ava unfolded it with shaking hands. The handwriting was neat, careful. The words of someone who knew this might be the last thing his daughter ever heard from him. Ava, it began. If you are reading this, you found them. Bull and Reaper. The brothers I chose when I could not stay with the family I was born into. I want you to know I did not leave because I did not love you. I left because loving you meant keeping you alive. The men who wanted me dead would have come for you and your mother if I stayed. So I disappeared, became someone else, lived under a name that was not mine so yours could stay clean. I am sorry I was not there to teach you to ride a bike or scare off bad boyfriends or walk you down any aisles. But I made Bull and Reaper promise that if you ever needed them, they would be the fathers I could not be. Trust them, Ava. They are good men in a world that does not make many anymore. Be strong, be kind, be the girl I know you are, even though I never got to watch you grow into her. All my love, Dad. Ava's vision blurred. Tears fell onto the paper. She wiped them away quickly, afraid of smudging the ink. Bull put a hand on her shoulder. He meant every word he said quietly. Reaper held up the cassette tape. This is Michael's testimony, he said. The original, never officially logged because the prosecutor had his own recording. But your father kept a backup, just in case. In the photos, Ava asked. Evidence, Reaper said. Photos of Chief Garrett meeting with his brother Kyle the day before the murder. Photos of Cash exchanging hands. Your father was not just a witness, he was investigating, building a case. This is the insurance he left behind. Jordan leaned forward. If we release this, Garrett is finished. Not yet, Reaper said. First we clear Ava's name, then we bury him. The days blurred together. Ava worked in the garage, learned how engines breathed and nod, and came back to life under the right hands. Bones taught her patience, how to listen to metal the way other people listen to music. Bull taught her how to ride, started her on a smaller bike in the empty lot behind the clubhouse, showed her balance, control, the kind of freedom that came from mastering something that could kill you if you did not respect it. At night, Ava called Danny, told him stories, promised him they would be together soon. He always asked the same question, when Ava? And she always gave the same answer. Soon, little man. I promise. Catherine Brennan did the home visit. Walked through the apartment above the garage that the club had set up for Ava, checked the fridge, the clean sheets, the school enrollment forms Bull had helped her fill out for her GED program. Catherine took notes, asked questions, interviewed Bull. At the end, she sat with Ava at the small kitchen table. I'm going to be honest with you, Catherine said. This is not traditional. 17-year-old girls do not usually get custody of 8-year-old brothers, even with co-guardians. But I have been doing this job long enough to know when a kid is fighting the right fight. You are not perfect. Your situation is complicated. But you love that boy, and you are building something real here. So what happens next? Ava asked. We go to court, Catherine said. We present your case. We show the judge that Danny is safer with you than bouncing through the system. And we pray the judge sees what I see. The court date was set for 2 weeks out. The same day as Ava's hearing for the drug charges. Jordan said it was intentional. Garrett stacking the deck, trying to make Ava look like a criminal and an unfit guardian all at once. But we have surprises of our own, Jordan said. A week before the hearing, Garrett made his move. Ava was leaving the grocery store, arms full of bags, when the black SUV pulled up beside her. No plates, tinted windows. The passenger window rolled down. Garrett sat in the back seat, staring at her. You can still walk away, he said. Drop the custody petition. Leave town. I will make the charges disappear. And if I do not, Ava asked, then I will make sure you never see your brother again, Garrett said. I will make sure every judge in this county knows you are the daughter of a rat and the friend of outlaws. I will bury you so deep the system will not find you for years. Ava set the bags down, stepped closer to the SUV, close enough to see the veins in Garrett's neck, close enough to smell his cologne. My father stood up to you, she said, testified even though he knew it would cost him everything. And you think I am going to run because you made some threats? Garrett's eyes narrowed. I am not my father. Ava continued. I am not running. I am not hiding. And when that judge hears what you did, when they see the evidence, Michael Wright left behind, you are the one who is going to lose everything. Garrett smiled, slow and cold. Brave words, girl. Let us see if you still believe them when they take your brother away. The window rolled up. The SUV drove off. Ava stood there in the parking lot shaking. Not from fear, from rage. Bull found her 20 minutes later, still standing there, groceries on the ground. He did not ask what happened. He just picked up the bags and walked her back to the truck. That night, the club gathered. Not for a meeting, for something else. Reaper called it a ride. 750 motorcycles lined up outside the clubhouse. Ava stood among them, helmet in hand, her own bike waiting. A used Sportster the club had rebuilt for her. Nothing fancy, but it ran clean and it was hers. Tonight we ride for Wright, Reaper said from his wheelchair. For Michael, for Ava, for every kid the system tried to crush who refused to stay down. Engines roared. The sound shook the ground. Ava climbed onto her bike, kicked it to life, felt the vibration hum up through her legs into her chest. Bull pulled up beside her. You ready, he asked. Yes, Ava said. They rode through Billings in formation, slow and deliberate. Past the police station where Garrett sat in his office watching through the blinds. Past the courthouse where the hearing would happen. Past the group home where Danny slept. A message written in chrome and thunder. We are here. We are not afraid. And we are not leaving. When they returned to the clubhouse, Ava found Reaper waiting. Tomorrow Garrett will try to break you in that courtroom, Reaper said. He will bring up your father, your past, every mistake you ever made. And you are going to sit there and take it. Because we fight clean. We fight legal. And when Jordan plays that tape, when the judge hears your father's voice from 17 years ago, telling the truth, Garrett is finished. What if it is not enough? Ava asked. Then we appeal, Reaper said. And we keep fighting, because that is what family does. The night before the hearing, Ava could not sleep. She sat on the steps outside the clubhouse, staring at the stars, thinking about Danny, about her father, about the choice she made on a frozen highway that had led her here. Bull sat down beside her, handed her a cup of coffee. You scared, he asked. Terrified, Ava admitted. Good, Bull said. Means you care. Means it matters. They sat in silence for a while. Then Bull spoke again. Your father told me something once, he said, right before he went into witness protection. He said the hardest part was not leaving. It was trusting that the people he left behind would be okay without him. Ava looked at him. He was wrong, Bull said. They were not okay. Your mother struggled. You grew up without a dad. Danny ended up in the system. But you know what? You survived. You are here. Fighting. That is what Michael wanted. Not for you to be okay, but for you to be strong enough to fight when things were not. Ava's throat tightened. Tomorrow you walk into that courtroom and you show them what Michael Wright's daughter is made of, Bull said. And no matter what happens, we will be right there beside you. The stars blurred. Ava wiped her eyes. Thank you, she whispered. Bull stood, offered her his hand. Come on, you need sleep. Tomorrow changes everything. But as Ava walked back inside, her phone buzzed. Another message. Same unknown number. Last chance, right? Walk away or watch your brother disappear. Ava deleted it, turned off her phone, lay down on her bed and stared at the ceiling until the first light of dawn crept through the window. She did not sleep, but she did not run either. And when morning came, she got dressed, braided her hair, and walked out to meet 750 motorcycles waiting to ride with her to the courthouse. Because Garrett had made one critical mistake. He thought she was alone. But Ava Wright had never been more surrounded by family in her life. The Yellowstone County Courthouse rose against the winter sky like a monument to everything Ava had learned not to trust. Stone steps, columns that tried to look noble, the kind of building that made promises about justice but delivered whatever the people with power decided was convenient. She stood at the bottom of those steps at 8 in the morning with Bull beside her and 750 motorcycles lined up along the street behind them. The sound of all those engines idling at once made the air vibrate, made the windows of the courthouse rattle in their frames. People on the sidewalk stopped and stared. Some pulled out phones, others just stood there with their mouths open trying to understand what they were seeing. A 17-year-old girl in jeans and a leather jacket walking toward a courthouse with an army at her back. Jordan Cole appeared at the top of the steps, briefcase in hand, suit pressed sharp. She looked down at the formation of bikes and shook her head with something that might have been a smile. Subtle, she called down to Bull. We do not do subtle, Bull called back. Jordan walked down to meet them. She put a hand on Ava's shoulder. You ready for this? No, Ava said honestly. Good answer, Jordan said. Anyone who says they are ready to have their life picked apart in front of a judge is either lying or stupid. You are neither, so let us go in there and show them what truth looks like. They walked up the steps together. Bull stayed close. Bones appeared from the crowd and fell in on Ava's other side. She had not asked him to come, had not asked any of them. But when she glanced back, she saw Tank and Rabbit and a dozen others climbing the steps behind her, filling the hallway, sitting in the gallery when the bailiff opened the courtroom doors. The prosecutor was already seated at his table, a man in his 50s with gray temples and the kind of face that had spent years practicing neutrality. He glanced at the Hells Angels filing into the benches, and his mouth tightened just slightly. Chief Garrett sat in the front row on the prosecution side, uniform crisp, hair perfect, eyes cold as January ice when they found Ava. All rise, the bailiff said. Judge Maria Santos entered. Mid-60s, black robe, reading glasses hanging from a chain around her neck. She sat, scanned the courtroom. Her gaze lingered on the cuts and patches filling half the gallery. We are here today for two matters, Judge Santos said. The state of Montana versus Ava Wright on charges of possession of a controlled substance, and the petition for emergency custody of Daniel Wright. Given the interconnected nature of these cases, I am hearing them together. Prosecution, you may begin. The prosecutor stood. Your Honor, the state will show that Miss Wright was found in possession of methamphetamine at an unlicensed motorcycle repair facility. Despite her age and claims of innocence, the evidence is clear. He presented photos of the bag found in the locker. Lab reports confirming the substance. Testimony from the arresting officer about the raid and the discovery. It was textbook, clean, designed to make Ava look like exactly what Garrett wanted the judge to see. A troubled teenager with no future making excuses. Jordan stood when it was her turn. Your Honor, the defense will show that this evidence was planted by corrupt law enforcement with a personal vendetta against Miss Wright's family. A murmur ran through the courtroom. Judge Santos raised an eyebrow. That is a serious accusation, Ms. Cole. It is a serious case, Jordan replied. She approached the bench with a laptop. Your Honor, I would like to submit security footage from the garage where this alleged crime took place. The judge nodded. Proceed. Jordan set up the laptop so the screen faced the judge. Press play. The footage showed the garage from a high angle. Timestamp in the corner. 15 minutes before the raid was officially announced and an officer in Billings PD uniform entered, walked directly to a locker, opened it, placed something inside, closed it, left. The same officer who later discovered the drugs, Jordan said. The prosecutor stood. Your Honor, this is circumstantial. It does not prove the officer planted anything. Then let us hear from the officer himself, Jordan said. She turned to the gallery. Officer Marcus Webb is here under subpoena. I would like to call him to the stand. A man in the back row stood slowly. Young, maybe late 20s, face pale. He walked to the witness stand like he was walking to his own execution. Jordan approached him. Officer Webb, did you enter the garage at the address on Fletcher Street on the morning of March 2nd at 07:45 hours? Webb glanced at Chief Garrett. Swallowed. I was conducting preliminary surveillance. Without a warrant, Jordan asked. We had intelligence that illegal activity was taking place. What illegal activity? Drug distribution. Did you find any drugs during your preliminary surveillance? Webb hesitated. Not at that time, but you went to a specific locker and opened it. Why? I was checking for contraband. And did you place anything in that locker? Silence, Officer Webb, Jordan said, voice sharp. Did you place drugs in that locker on orders from Chief Russell Garrett? Objection, the prosecutor barked. Speculation. I will rephrase, Jordan said. Officer Webb, have you ever received orders from Chief Garrett to plant evidence in any investigation? More silence, Wictimon. Then Webb's shoulders sagged. Yes, he whispered. The courtroom erupted. Judge Santos slammed her gavel. Ordered in this court. Garrett stood, face red. That officer is lying. He is trying to save his own career. Sit down, Chief Garrett, Judge Santos said. Voice like iron, you will have your chance to speak if called, but right now I suggest you remain silent. Garrett sat, but his hands were shaking. Jordan turned back to Webb. Why did you do it? Because I was told this girl's father destroyed Chief Garrett's family 17 years ago, that she deserved to pay for it, and if I did not help, I would lose my job. Judge Santos leaned forward. Officer Webb, you understand you are admitting to a felony under oath? Webb nodded. Yes, Your Honor. I am done lying for him. Jordan walked back to her table. Your Honor, the defense moves to dismiss all charges against Ava Wright. This was a conspiracy orchestrated by Chief Russell Garrett to punish the daughter of a man who testified against his brother. The prosecutor stood. Your Honor, even if we accept that this particular evidence was tainted, that does not address the custody matter. You are right, Jordan said. So let us address it. She pulled out another file. Your Honor, I would like to call Daniel Wright to the stand. Danny entered through the side door with Catherine Brennan beside him. He looked so small in the big courtroom, eyes wide. But when he saw Ava sitting at the table, his face brightened. He waved. Ava waved back. Catherine helped him into the witness chair. The bailiff brought over a step stool so Danny could reach the microphone. Judge Santos smiled down at him. Hi, Daniel. Do you know why you are here today? Danny nodded. Miss Catherine says you are going to decide if I can live with my sister. That is right, the judge said. I'm going to ask you some questions, and I need you to tell me the truth. Can you do that? Yes, ma'am. Jordan approached gently. Danny, can you tell the judge about your foster home? The one with Mr. Pike. Danny's face fell. He was mean. He yelled a lot, and sometimes he hit me. Where did he hit you? On my arms, Danny said. And my back. When I did not clean my room fast enough, or when I talked too much. Did you tell anyone I told my teacher? She called Miss Catherine. And what happened then, Miss Catherine took me away, put me in a different house with other kids. But I do not know them, and I want to be with Ava. His voice cracked on the last word. Ava felt her throat close up. Why do you want to live with your sister? Judge Santos asked. Danny looked right at Ava. Because she always comes back for me. Even when things are bad, even when she does not have a house or food, she always makes sure I am okay. She is the only person who never gave up on me. The courtroom was silent. Even Garrett looked away. Thank you, Daniel, Judge Santos said softly. You can step down. Catherine took Danny back to the waiting room. Judge Santos looked at Jordan. Anything else? Counselor Jordan nodded. Your Honor, I have one more piece of evidence. It is 17 years old, but it is directly relevant to why Chief Garrett has targeted Ava Wright and her family. She walked to a table where a cassette player sat, old-fashioned, the kind no one used anymore. She pressed play. Static crackled. Then a voice, male, young, nervous. My name is Michael Wright. Today is October 14th. I am giving this testimony about what I witnessed on the night of October 10th outside Kelly's Bar in Tacoma, Washington. Ava's breath stopped. Her father's voice. She had never heard it before. Not in any recording, not in any video, just stories from Bull and Reaper. But now he was here, speaking from the grave. The testimony continued. Michael described seeing Detective Kyle Garrett arguing with a man outside the bar. Described the way Kyle pulled a gun, the way the other man raised his hands, begged, and the way Kyle shot him anyway. 3 times, center mass. I tried to run, Michael's voice said. But Detective Garrett saw me, told me if I said anything, he would kill my wife and unborn daughter. But I cannot stay silent. A man is dead. And if I do not speak up, his family will never know what happened. Michael paused. The recording hissed. I know this will cost me everything, he continued. I know I will have to leave, go into hiding, never see my daughter grow up. But some things matter more than comfort, more than safety. Truth matters. Justice matters. And if my testimony puts a killer behind bars, then losing my family is the price I pay. His voice broke slightly. Ava, if you ever hear this, I want you to know your daddy loved you. I did not leave because you were not enough. I left because you were everything. And I would rather live 1,000 miles away knowing you were safe than stay close and watch you die for my mistakes. The tape ended. Silence filled the courtroom like water filling a well. Ava was crying. She did not try to stop it. Beside her, Bull's hand gripped her shoulder. Judge Santos removed her glasses, wiped her eyes. Chief Garrett, she said, do you have anything to say? Garrett stood. That testimony was never verified. My brother was innocent. This is a witch hunt, Your Honor, Jordan said. If I may, she produced a stack of photographs. These are surveillance photos taken by Michael Wright in the weeks before the murder. They show Kyle Garrett meeting with known criminals, exchanging money, planning the hit. She laid them on the bench. Judge Santos examined each one. Chief Garrett, the judge said, I am ordering a federal investigation into your conduct. Bailiff, please escort the chief out of this courtroom. You cannot do this, Garrett shouted. I am the chief of police. Not anymore, Judge Santos said. 2 federal marshals appeared from the back of the room. They had been waiting, coordinated with Jordan ahead of time. They walked Garrett down the aisle in handcuffs while the entire courtroom watched. He turned at the door, looked back at Ava. You are just like your father, he spat. A rat who destroys families. No, Ava said, standing, voice steady. I am exactly like my father, someone who tells the truth even when it costs everything. Garrett was let out. The doors closed behind him. Judge Santos looked at Ava. Miss Wright, she said, after reviewing all the evidence, I am dismissing the drug charges with prejudice. You are free to go. Thank you, Your Honor, Ava whispered. As for the custody matter, the judge continued. I am granting you emergency custody of Daniel Wright effective immediately. Bull McKenna will serve as co-guardian until you turn 18. Catherine Brennan will conduct monthly check-ins to ensure Daniel's welfare. She banged her gavel. This court is adjourned. The courtroom erupted. Not in chaos, in relief, in justice finally landing where it belonged. Ava turned and Bull pulled her into a hug. Bones clapped her on the back. Reaper, watching from his wheelchair in the front row, nodded once, a small smile on his weathered face. Jordan packed up her briefcase, leaned close to Ava. Your father would be proud, she said. Catherine brought Danny back into the courtroom. He ran to Ava, threw his arms around her waist. Are we together now? He asked. Yes, Ava said. We are together for good. Danny squeezed tighter. I knew you would come. 3 months later, the apartment above the garage looked like a home. Danny's drawings covered the fridge. His backpack hung by the door next to Ava's boots. The small kitchen table had 4 chairs, even though only 2 people lived there because Bull and Bones stopped by most mornings for coffee. Ava worked 30 hours a week in the garage. She had her own bay now, her own set of tools. Customers asked for her by name when they wanted carburetors rebuilt or fuel systems diagnosed. Bones said she had a gift, the kind of hands that understood machines the way some people understood music. She attended GED classes 3 nights a week at the community college. Math came easy. English was harder. But she was passing. She would graduate in the spring. Danny thrived. He played Little League, made friends, stopped flinching when adults raised their voices. At night, he asked Ava to read to him, even though he could read himself. He just liked the sound of her voice. Catherine stopped by once a month like the judge ordered, checked the apartment, talked to Danny, asked Ava how things were going. Every visit ended the same way. "You are doing great, kid. Keep it up." Chief Garrett was in federal prison awaiting trial on 12 counts, including evidence tampering, witness, intimidation, and conspiracy. Officer Webb had turned state's witness. 3 other officers had been suspended pending investigation. The entire Billings Police Department was under federal oversight. Reaper had recovered enough to walk without the wheelchair. Physical therapy 3 times a week, a cane on bad days. But he was back, leading the club, making decisions, riding, which brought them to today. Bull knocked on Ava's door at dawn. "You ready for what Ava asked?" "Reaper's first long ride since the accident," Bull said. "He wants you there." An hour later, Ava stood in the clubhouse parking lot watching 750 motorcycles line up. Reaper sat on his Harley at the front, the same bike that had crushed him in the snow. Rebuilt, repaired, running clean. He saw Ava and waved her over. "You riding with me today?" he asked. "I have my own bike now," Ava said. Reaper smiled. "I know. That is why I am asking. Ride beside me, not behind." Ava climbed onto her Sportster, kicked it to life, pulled up next to Reaper. Bull took position on his other side. Bones behind them, the entire club falling into formation. "Where are we going?" Ava asked. Reaper looked at her. "Back to where it started." They rode out of Billings in a long convoy, through the Montana morning, past fields waking up to spring, past farmhouses and fence lines and the big empty sky that seemed to go on forever. The air was cold but not brutal, the kind of cold that reminded you that you were alive. Interstate 90 opened up ahead of them. Reaper accelerated. Ava stayed beside him, matching his speed, the road beneath them smooth and fast. They passed the exit for the Billings Motorsports Park, kept going. And then Ava saw it. The guardrail, still bent from where Reaper's bike had hit it. The embankment below still scarred from the crash. Reaper slowed, pulled onto the shoulder. The entire convoy followed, engines cutting one by one until the only sound was wind and the distant hum of traffic. Reaper climbed off his bike, walked to the rail, looked down into the ditch where he had almost died. Ava joined him. "I do not remember much from that night," Reaper said. "Just cold, pain, and then your voice, telling me to hang on." "I did not think you would make it," Ava admitted. "Neither did I," Reaper said. He turned to face her. "But here we are. You saved my life, gave me another chance. I do not take that lightly." He reached into his cut, pulled out an envelope, smaller than the one from before, newer. "Your father left 2 letters," Reaper said. "The first was for when you found us. The second was for when you became family." He handed it to Ava. She opened it carefully. Inside was a single page, the handwriting the same as before. "Careful, loving, Ava," it began. "If you are reading this, Reaper is alive. You are with the club, and you have proven that the right name stands for something. I could not teach you to be strong. I could not show you how to stand up when the world pushed you down, but I made sure you would be surrounded by people who could. Bull will teach you loyalty. Reaper will teach you honor. Bones will teach you patience. And together they will show you that family is not just blood. It is choice. You chose to jump that guardrail when you could have walked away. That choice saved Reaper, but it also saved you. Because now you know what I learned 17 years ago. Sometimes the hardest thing and the right thing are the same thing. And doing it anyway is what makes you worth knowing. I am proud of you. I have always been proud of you, even when I could not be there to say it. Brotherhood is not blood. It is showing up when it matters. And you, my brave girl, always show up. All my love, Dad." Ava folded the letter, tucked it into her jacket pocket, looked out over the highway where trucks rolled past, and the world kept moving like nothing had changed. But everything had changed. She had changed. "Thank you," she said to Reaper. He put a hand on her shoulder. "Thank you for not walking past." They stood there for a long moment. Then Bull appeared beside them. "We should get moving," he said. "Got a surprise waiting back at the clubhouse." What surprise, Ava asked. You will see. They rode back, faster this time. The convoy opening up into formation on the interstate. Ava felt the wind pull at her jacket, felt the engine hum between her legs, felt alive in a way she had never known was possible. When they pulled into the clubhouse lot, Danny was waiting, sitting on the steps with Rabbit. He jumped up when he saw Ava. "You are back," he shouted. Ava climbed off the bike, scooped him into a hug. "Miss me always," Danny said. Bull walked over with a box under his arm, set it on the picnic table, opened it. Inside was a leather cut, small, kid-sized, patches already sewn on. Hell's Angels, Montana. And below that a support patch. Danny Wright, family. "This is for you," Bull said to Danny. "If you want it." Danny's eyes went wide. "Really, really? You are Ava's brother? That makes you ours too." Danny looked at Ava. "Can I?" "Of course," Ava said. Bull helped him put it on. The sleeves were too long, the shoulders too wide. But Danny stood up straighter wearing it, grinned like he had just been given the world. Rabbit high-fived him. "Welcome to the family, little man." That night, the club threw a cookout, burgers and ribs and corn on the grill. Music playing from speakers someone had rigged up, kids running around the lot. Ava sat on a bench watching Danny play tag with Rabbit's nephew. Both of them wearing cuts that did not quite fit but somehow looked perfect anyway. Bull sat down beside her, handed her a soda. "You good?" "Yeah," Ava said. "I think I am." "Your old man would have loved this," Bull said. "Seeing you here, seeing Danny safe, watching you become the person we always knew you could be." Ava took a sip, watched the sun start to drop toward the horizon. "You really think he would be proud?" Bull nodded. "I know he would." Reaper walked over. Moving easier now, Kane left in the truck. He sat on Ava's other side. "I have been thinking," he said, "about what comes next." "What do you mean?" Ava asked. "You turn 18 in 6 months," Reaper said. "When that happens, you will have full custody of Danny. You will not need Bull as co-guardian anymore. You will be your own person, free to make your own choices." He paused. "But I hope one of those choices is staying with us. Not as someone we are protecting, but as a prospect. Someone earning their place. Learning the life, if that is what you want." Ava looked at him, then at Bull, then at the yard full of people who had shown up when she had no one, who had fought for her when she could not fight for herself, who had given her a brother back in a future she never thought she deserved. "Is that what I want?" she asked. "Only you can answer that," Reaper said. Ava thought about it, thought about the ditch and the snow and the choice she made to jump instead of walk away. Thought about her father's letters, his voice on that tape, the way he had given up everything to do the right thing. Brotherhood is not blood, it is choice. "I want to stay," Ava said. "I want to earn my place. I want to be part of this." Bull smiled. "Then we will teach you." The sun set slow, orange and red bleeding across the Montana sky. Danny came running over, grabbed Ava's hand. "Can we go home soon?" he asked. "I have homework." "Yeah," Ava said. "We can go home." They said goodnight to everyone, rode the 2 blocks back to the apartment above the garage. Danny talked the whole way, about his day, about the kids at school, about how Rabbit said he could help work on a bike this weekend if it was okay with Ava. Ava listened, smiled, unlocked the door and watched Danny run inside, drop his backpack, turn on the television. She stood in the doorway for a moment, looking at this small space they had turned into something real, something safe, something that felt like the first home she had ever known. Her phone buzzed, a text from Bull. "Sleep well, kid? Tomorrow we start teaching you to really ride." Ava smiled, typed back, looking forward to it. She closed the door, locked it, walked into the kitchen where Danny was already pulling out his math homework. She sat across from him, helped him with fractions, made grilled cheese sandwiches for dinner. Read him a chapter from the book they were working through, tucked him into bed. Before she turned out the light, Danny looked up at her. "Ava, yeah, are we going to be okay now? Like really okay?" Ava thought about the question, about everything they had survived to get here, about the people who had shown up when it mattered, about the father she never knew who had loved her enough to disappear, about the family she had found in the snow. "Yeah," she said, "we are going to be really okay." Danny smiled, closed his eyes, was asleep in minutes. Ava walked back into the living room, pulled out her father's letters, read them both again, slowly, carefully, memorizing every word. Then she folded them up, put them in a box with the photograph of Danny and the ripped bus ticket and all the small pieces of the life she used to have. She did not need them anymore, not the way she used to, but she kept them anyway. Reminders of where she had been, proof that she had survived. She walked to the window, looked out over the garage, the clubhouse down the street, the bikes lined up in neat rows, the lights burning in windows where brothers gathered, where family lived. Ava Wright was 17 years old, a high school dropout working toward her GED, a mechanic's apprentice with grease under her nails, a sister raising her brother in a small apartment above a garage, a girl who had jumped into a snowstorm to save a stranger and found a family in the process. She was not perfect. She was not fixed. She still woke up some nights afraid that it would all disappear, that someone would decide she did not deserve it and take it away. But she was here. She was fighting. She was showing up. And in the end, that was all her father had ever asked her to do. Ava turned off the lights, climbed into bed, closed her eyes. Tomorrow, Bull would teach her to ride faster. Bones would show her how to rebuild a transmission. Danny would come home from school with more homework and more stories. Catherine would stop by to check in. Jordan would call with updates on Garrett's trial. Reaper would ask her to run an errand or help with a task or just sit and talk about nothing important. Tomorrow, life would keep moving, the way it always did. One day after another, one choice after another, one moment of showing up when it would be easier to walk away. But tonight, Ava Wright slept in a bed that was hers, in a home that was safe, with a brother down the hall who knew she would always come back for him, and 750 motorcycles parked throughout Billings, ready to ride if she ever needed them. Because some debts are not paid with money or blood or promises made in the dark. They are paid by showing up when everyone else walks past, by jumping into ditches when the smart thing is to keep walking, by standing in courtrooms and telling the truth when lies would be easier, by choosing family over fear, brotherhood over isolation, honor over survival. Ava had learned all of that on a frozen highway on a night when the world tried to kill her and she refused to die. She had learned it from a father she never knew who loved her enough to disappear, and from 750 men who showed up in the snow and said, "You are not alone anymore." That lesson was worth more than anything the system had ever offered, more than any promise the world had ever made. And as Ava drifted off to sleep in the small apartment above the garage, with her brother breathing softly in the next room, and the rumble of distant motorcycles like a heartbeat in the night, she understood something her father had known 17 years ago. Some fights are worth losing everything, some truths are worth the pain, and some families are not the ones you are born into. They are the ones you find when you are freezing in the snow and someone hears you calling for help and decides to jump.